And we're rolling. Okay, here we are talking about personas, interlocks, and mapping with a couple. Okay. So will you say more about when you had the initial impulse and urge? What is it you really want to hear about?
Well, I work with personas a lot, and it's one of my favorite tools by far.
It's so fun, isn't it?
I love it. And you've mentioned the persona interlock with couples, and talked about it a little bit, that it's common that couples are attracted to each other, even potentially with persona attraction. And even if that isn't the reason within the relationship, there can be personas that kind of perfectly support the other persona showing up. And so I just, I get it, but I really wanted to understand more about it and really understand how you actually work with that, how you introduce it, how you bring it into therapy and the tools you give the clients, or just the general. I understand personas, and I understand this concept, and it makes total sense to me, and I certainly can personally relate to experiencing it. But that's kind of, so everything beyond that, and I know when you and I were talking really briefly, you mentioned also that you can work with clients around the persona of hero, victim, and villain interlocking. So I guess both concepts kind of, and how you put them together.
All right.
Cool. Does that cover?
Yeah, that covers, and I also want to ask for maybe personal examples from your own life and how this has worked. I feel like that's really powerful, and then maybe an example from therapy that really stands out to you.
Yeah, or else I could bring, since I have couples and relationships, if we could work one here if we have time too, someone I have.
Okay, great.
We can't do that. I don't think we could do that because of filming.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Right. And watching the time, and also that I don't have a plug to keep my phone going, so maybe we'll have to have.
Oh.
I think I'm at 65%. I couldn't find one, so either we'll use one of your phones when this conks out, or
Okay.
just have to.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we could stop at about 25 after, that would be good for me.
25 after 2.
2.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay.
Great. Okay, personas. Yay. Okay, so I'll just do a little bit the basic teaching so that we all are kind of oriented. So remembering this chart, essence to something happens, to when something happens, having feelings, and understanding that if we really did have feelings, we could go right back to essence. There's our life, except that when we don't have feelings, what happens instead, because they're too overwhelming, is we create defenses around them, and that's what personas are. Every persona is a defense. Every persona comes from reactive brain, so you can actually map them onto reactive brain. The shame persona, the angry persona, the whatever frozen fear persona. So, and again, if the persona had feelings, it could go back to essence. So to understand, this is reactive brain, this is creative brain. But when we don't have feelings, because so many of us, it's just not the thing to do at the moment, or for whatever reason, then what happens is the persona will project. And so then that often is the world that people are living in, as if this is reality. But what's happening is my workaholic took over, so I wouldn't feel sad and scared. Now I'm in my workaholic persona, and now my workaholic persona is the filter through which I'm seeing the world. So I'm projecting onto the world from that persona. And then if I don't have any awareness of that, then I have that place of that's just what it is. And so when people say that, no, that you don't understand, it's just how it is. That's usually a persona talking, because the persona says it is what it is, that's all that I can see of reality right now. My workaholic says there's just too much to do. I can't believe there's always more to do, and why aren't other people showing up and doing it? That's probably a different, now I've just shifted to a different persona, the critical, judgmental bitch persona or something else. They can start to, go from one to the next. But to understand that this is the world that most people are living in most of the time. So if you're trying to step in and say, but wait, no, that's not true about reality or whatever, or what do you feel or whatever. Feelings are way up here, way out of the projection, and that is a really big step because you're messing with my defenses. I want my defenses, they're nice. I don't have to have these damn feelings. So, and you're telling me that there are, what do you mean, Julie, that you're doing work all the time? Because that's just how it is, Nicole. Somebody's got to do it. Right now you're arguing with my persona.
Yeah.
And you're arguing with my reality that I'm very invested in keeping so that I don't have to have these feelings. So it works, it's great, except that then I'm trapped in that reality and I don't know that I'm trapped in it because the whole idea is to be unconscious about it so that I don't have to have these darn things. Okay, so that's kind of the overall idea. So then so I'll do the other chart in a moment, but to give you a sense of that. So this is the requirement. This is what the persona requires, is right here. I require this to be true. I require the projection. Because look what will happen if I don't have the projection. You're messing with me, you bad therapist. You're saying, but Julie, you don't have to work so hard or whatever, like, you don't understand. Now I got my victim. But that I actually require the work to keep showing up. I require other people to not do things because otherwise I'd have to have these feelings. So that's the setup. And so if you go to that other chart that we use about personas, and speaking of what would I do with a couple, this. I'd get out my whiteboard. I would show the whole essence so that people have some sort of intellectual framework. I don't know how else to do it. I'm sure there are many ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if people don't understand that, you're working against the personas. But if they start to understand that, they can start to have a framework that will help them go underneath the defense, basically.
The one that I do find people have the hardest time grasping, even people that have taken all the rest in and they're like, yes, let's do persona work, is the question that isn't on the thing, but we've added it on, kind of, is how do you need the world to be in order for this persona to be? And that one throws, I find it that oftentimes people actually can't, or won't, I guess.
It's very disorienting.
That one, yeah.
That's upside down, bizarro
Yeah.
land
Right.
talk. It's very disorienting, so
Right.
maybe we don't add it, because it's, anyway, you can see
Yeah.
if you want to take it that far.
Yeah.
But to understand, this is a process, to look at yourselves about, as you've learned this, how long did it take you to start to even grok that whole idea of, what do you mean I require?
Yeah.
That's crazy talk
Right.
to people. It really sounds stupid. I don't require that, I don't want that, that's why I'm paying you.
Right.
So, because I want this to be different. And then to start to say, oh, but you've got this whole unconscious reason to keep things the same, so that you don't have to have these feelings. And to appreciate just the enormity of them.
Right.
Why don't we want to why don't we want to have that one moment of, oh my God, reality is dissolving before my eyes because I'm actually finally feeling my fear, my sadness.
Right.
Well, because we don't.
Right. The only way I do it, which is obviously the interview, is sometimes if they can go all the way back to when they started it, then there's some room to be like, oh,
Well,
I
right.
see.
Right.
It's
So
in the present time where it's
that's why the interview is so essential. And so the sequence of this is important, where if people understand that and then start to go to this chart about starting to fill in, this is what we do in Essentials. Just go through and fill in, okay, tell me about some personas. Well, it's not gonna work very well. Anyway, but we're starting up here. I don't know, I've taught Essentials so many times, you might not remember. we spend a lot of time here before we get here. We've already spent an hour and a half just talking about this stuff before we go here. So this is the persona and this is the requirement. But it takes a long time to get to this part because this is so unconscious for people. So I would have shown them that other chart. We'd start to talk about projection and then come back, not even go there yet, like, but let's just talk about your persona. Okay, great. People have no idea. Really, I mean, why should they? I don't mean that as a criticism. Okay, here we go. All right, let's talk about your your judge persona, like in a couple. He's always criticizing me. I guess then that's her persona, probably her victim persona. But let's talk about his judging persona for a minute. So starting with that, I mean, I would have the couple with the piece of paper or something, you know, you can just draw circles. Okay, can you list your personas? So I'm getting rid of the judge for a minute. Okay, just list your personas. Oh, I'm going with him right now. I've got my hard worker, because I work for my family, and I've got my good guy, the nice guy, probably. We have so many nice guys in Boulder. Good guy. Oh, and I do have this judge. Now, what I didn't fill in here that sometimes is useful, so just another tool you could use, is this other, sorry, we're gonna have to come back to this, is this other way of thinking about personas, which is this circle, that essence is way in here, and then we've got number, I guess I need one more rim. Number 2 personas and number 1 personas. Yeah. So to start to normalize that, this whole thing is like just normalizing it. We all have this. We all have our number 1 personas. We all have our number 2 personas. And I'm remembering saying to Katie something like, "Oh, and I finally like, oh, do you really mean number 2 personas?" She said, "Yeah." that was not a mistake that she called it a number 2, the shitty ones. That these are the really the socially acceptable ones. And socially rewarded ones. But then there's this whole realm here of the ones that are the troublemakers that we all have. I called them something else in my book, I can't remember what. But we all have the number 2 personas. But so and to look here, that they are actually closer to essence than these are.
Which is why in relationship they're accessed in intimacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. Because they're, oh, great sex, oh, this is great, and then there's that next, sort of like the messy stuff is right there, is more available until we kind of put ourselves back together. So that can be useful too, but would you do it? I don't know, but it's another tool. You just have to find your way through. That.
Well, it's good for us anyways in the training to really
for you to know that, and the whole thing is, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to help somebody not feel so bad that they just exploded last night and wanted to kill their wife. Like, okay, that's not a good thing, but there's a reason, and they don't, if this is the shadow work, right? That if, see, I'm so bad, like I can't tolerate it, you can't look at it, I'm not bad, you're bad. Right. I just can't let myself face into that.
Right. That's why I think I told you I've tended to not go over to and do the essence work when we do persona work the same day, because the focus is really, for me, is really on, can you love this little whatever this troublemaker essence is, and can you realize that wherever this part arose, the last thing it needs is to have you being, I hate you,
but it's the
first
impulse.
Absolutely.
For sure. I mean, I'm just gonna say for all of us, but speak for myself. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I
never want to do that again.
No, we got to get rid of this part. Isn't that why I'm seeing you? Is to get rid of this part, and here it happened again. And so, here's the power of this work, is to face into that and integrate it and love those parts, instead of the opposite, resisting making them wrong, which is, typically the inclination.
Yeah.
So this is a handy chart to start to pull that out, and especially then if you're then making your circles, and you can start to, oh yeah, I do have the hard worker and the good guy, oh, and I have this other part, oh, and I have the exploder, and I will do that. I mean, I will talk about my troublesome personas as much as I can. Normalize, like, yeah, me too, I go, yeah, this one and this, a puddle, blah. So as a model to say, yeah, I got them, and you got them, and we all have them, and here we are. Face, face, and face. So then we're back to the circles. And so, and having both the number 1 and number 2s here is really useful because, okay, it's just a thing. Look, they're just, they're the same, they're equivalent. It's not better to have a good guy than to have a judge. It's not better. It might seem better, but it's not better. They're the same, they're personas.
Right.
They're doing the same thing. They're all from reactive brain, the same function. So let's just kind of group them all, so that's one thing I would say to do is to be sure you've got, well, as much as you can, will you remember this, I don't know, but if you can, to have them all on their piece of paper so they can start to see, and that the partner also is doing the same thing. That's because in couples, right, here we fell in love, it's the best, you're amazing, I'm amazing, I know, it's so great. No one is loved as much as we. We're the best. Until those number 2s start coming out.
Exactly.
And then it's like, well, I mean, I'm remembering somebody saying, I wasn't a monster like this till I met you.
So it's your fault.
Yeah. So I need to get away from you. It's
Right.
very logical.
Right.
You're the one that's making me do this thing that I don't really want to do. Instead of, okay, it's logical, it's inevitable.
Right.
Inevitable. It is inevitable that those parts will come out. That's part of what closeness is. And so for people to be able to live through that time, which is very messy and hard because we were so in love and I was the best person, now I'm a monster. How could I be a monster? But you loved me and that was, it's so hard for people. It's just such a hard time in a relationship. And then that can just take over because I'm trying not to be the monster, and so see, I'll do better next time, but then you said that thing, and you said you weren't going to say that thing to me like that, and now I said, no, I'm that person again, I never want to be like, that whole strife, it's so hard for people, so painful.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, of
is
course,
there
it's like blah, blah.
would you say that there's a kind of an inevitable time where this starts to show up?
Yes. Well, it's after the honeymoon.
Yeah.
And I've heard Hendrik say, well, that could be 9 minutes or
3
a year and a
years.
half. But I would say typically, the 18-month mark is really hard for people. They've been able to hold it together unless they've had, it depends on how old they are too, how fast this stuff comes to the surface.
Yeah.
As I got older, it came up faster. So
Yeah,
speaking for myself, I did a better job, or at least I didn't know.
That's true.
But I'd say most people break up around the 18-month mark because they've been able to kind of gut their way through
until then.
and make the personas go away and drink enough and eat enough sugar and have enough sex or whatever to kind of keep them at bay.
And so then.
But I'd say it all starts coming out in 6 months. I mean, you just can't, you get too tired.
So this is truly a method of avoidance. I'm just thinking, I'm thinking about how living in these personas is definitely a method of avoidance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Extreme avoidance.
Extreme avoidance that we all share. And I would say that culturally, that's why we have cultural conditioning, is to try to make people into personas. I mean, that's what we get out of it. Because then they'll do the things until they don't, and then we'll lock them up. I mean, it's like, that's what conditioning is for. I'm going to show you, you're supposed to be this kind of person, you're not supposed to be that kind of person. Uh-oh, I am that kind of person, what do I do now?
Right. So then, Julie, when it does start to show up, it struck me what you said is that this is such a hard time. which is so true.
Oh,
But that also, then it's almost like this is then how your reality of the relationship starts to freeze into these dynamics.
absolutely.
So that it can show up at 18 months and still be profoundly just worse, but the same thing in 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And at
Yeah.
that point, everyone's frozen in their personas.
Yeah, and they start to see each other that way, themselves and each other. I don't want to see myself as being a mean bitch, but I'll sometimes do that, and it'll be intolerable. But mostly, I'll blame you so that you, because I'll see you as you're the one that's making me do that. Like, it's so much easier to see out than to see in, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So this whole persona work, that's blessings to. I've never asked Katie where they came up with this. I'm sure they've learned pieces from other folks, but what you're doing, this is like such a beautiful way to bring things into the light that were in the darkness before. So I don't want to know I'm a judgmental, mean guy. I'm a good guy. I'm not that. Oh, but I have this part of me. But I'm just bringing it out into the light in a compassionate way, and that's what the persona interview does. I mean, if you watch the progression, it starts with something that really supports the judge. What's let's see,
What are you
judge?
most proud of?
Yeah, what's the most important thing to you? What are you most proud of? It's really kind of bolstering that. Well, yeah. I mean, it is important to me to be able to, know what's good and what's bad. And I'm proud of my ability of discernment that the judge has allowed me to do. But it's starting by kind of supporting that way of being, that there's not something wrong, but then the progression is to start to take it back to, but wait a second, what's the next question?
Who did you learn your style from?
So right away, that's interrupting. See? It's a good idea to be in persona. Who'd you learn your style from? Oh, you mean I have a style? Oh, right, my mother. Oh, I really didn't like that about my mother. It's already starting to kind of dissolve some of the defensives around this. It's so beautiful, but in a really nice way. It wasn't me, it was her I learned this from. It's not my fault.
Well, yeah, and you start to see in that I find in myself and my clients, you start to see the historical family dynamics coming up through the time. So it just spreads it out a little bit. It's not, I'm a bad person as much anymore.
Exactly. That's exactly what's different. It's not just I'm a bad person, because that is intolerable for people.
Right.
The whole thing that we, at least in Western civilization, I'm a bad person, self-hatred is
Huge.
and it's almost universal. So, but I can't let myself feel that except for when I fall into it and I'm depressed and I'm bad. But then no, I've got to keep that away. So this is really about messing with that. What bad person? Like, we all have this.
Right.
As bad as it is, as monster. So I'm the monster abuser. Like that abuser word, ooh, that's been hard for people. Especially the other person, like, you are abusive, and so my family thinks so too, right? So now we've got all kinds of people behind that. I can't tolerate that until I can start to bring it. Oh, okay, the monster, right? Who did I learn that from? Oh, yeah.
And who did they learn that from?
And and then it becomes much more about, well, of course I'm that.
So Julie, I'm wondering, with the attraction piece, I'm wondering if we attract our most denied, like the number twos.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So starting to get into that, let me see, let's go through a couple more of the questions.
So the next one is, when did you make your first appearance?
So now, because that implied, I love these questions, they imply, oh, I came in as essence and then persona came in. So who I am is this, and then now this persona, when I was 2, when I was 5.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's not me, it's something else.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Right. And then the question after that is, what was going on in your life at that time?
And now we're really getting into the unconscious and messing with people. So it's a very delicate question, and I guess on camera, messing with really means interrupting the defense. And so now we're getting into this much more place of thin ice, because we are literally starting to say, whoa, there was something going on that wasn't you. Uh-oh, oh yeah, and usually people are like, meh, and then they take a moment and they can actually see the thing. I mean, it's really interesting. That is such a great question. That actually is not in the original list of, but I really like that question because second grade. Oh yeah, second grade. What was happening in second grade? Oh, nothing, I like to go to school. Okay, but what else was happening in second grade? Well, let's see, I don't know. My grandfather died and we did move, so keep going.
I had that with a client this week. It was kind of like, oh, I like this, I like that. And then this person said, oh, my little sister was adopted then. I was like, oh.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
as a therapist, you're waiting for that moment. What's the real thing that happened that was too emotionally overwhelming that persona came out? And one of my favorite things to do, and honestly we haven't done in a while, persona day, is to basically go back to the moment that the persona was born. That is really fun, and have fairy godparents around so that they can do something different instead of having to create a persona. Anyway, that's a fun thing.
And then the question after that is, when you're around, what do you keep the rest of you from feeling?
So now we're starting to get some awareness of, okay, that's what this persona is doing for me, and more distance from, that is me, I am a monster. Oh, the monster's taking over, it's doing something for me. That's a brand new thought. Brand new thought. Especially with these deeper, tougher personas. People do not think that, they just want to get rid of them. They don't want to have any idea that they're doing something for them. So that's
right. And then the next is, what are you most afraid of?
Yes. So reactor brain, they're all threat based. So letting that come out, because what do you mean I'm not afraid is when I'm in that, I'm the big abusive burly guy, until, there is something I'm afraid about. And now we're melting. It's like, okay, I don't have to just live from threat. And so now we're like, okay, now people are kind of disoriented by that.
Around that time, I also start to, I guess, all the way along a little bit, this is when I'm starting to try to bring in that this isn't also either about just trying to force this thing to leave you, but it's about like actually, finding a way to love and care for it.
That's where we're going. And know that that's really tough for people.
Really tough.
Because it doesn't make sense. Because all their lives they've been trying to make this thing stop. So to think that's the whole idea that it's doing something for them, like that's the shift. That it's actually to their benefit to have a persona, like all the things I would load on, like how it's taking care of you, how it's been there for you from the beginning, even if it's totally created hell, it's actually been there for you from the beginning, and you've needed it, and it's taking care of you. So anything I can do to load onto that side of, instead of let's try to make it go away.
And then actually I think it's important for them to recognize that there is essence in every persona.
Well, right.
Yeah.
We can get there. Yes.
Well, that's what the next question really is. The question, what do you really want? To me, that is a question from essence.
Yeah.
It's bringing essence in.
It is, because now we've gotten under the defense from those other questions, and so essence can speak. It doesn't always happen though, because sometimes it goes right back to the persona. Well, I want her to just shut up, or I want her to, and so just know that. It's like, okay, I don't do anything with that, I just let them answer the way they want to answer. Okay, so far so good?
Yeah.
So then we get to interlocks, and your question about attractions. And then it gets really interesting. Oh, so with a couple, it's the best, because they think this person just is a monster, or that person just is a bitch, or that person is just depression, or whatever. The partner, by now, has decided that's just true. I just was a bad shopper. I just picked the wrong person, because this person is all these bad things that I've already told my mother about, and my friends all agree, and we've really, that's the Glue Club from Gay Hendricks. you know, everybody knows it's true, he really is an abusive guy. He really is an abuser, or whatever the thing is. And so it's, yes, couples get entrenched in seeing each other that way. So this is one of the best things about couples therapy, is for you as the therapist to be talking to their partner and bring this to light, that it actually isn't who they are. I mean, it's astounding. And it's endearing, and it's beautiful, and because they're watching the partner melt out of the defense. They're witnessing that. And so they can start to have a different experience of those personas and start differentiating, oh, I thought this was who they are. It turns out that's a persona.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I'm remembering my own first light bulb with Kath, and I can still feel it in my body, like the relief of, oh, I just thought that's who she was. She's not, that isn't? Oh.
I'm just realizing we may have to do another one around working with families with this, because, you know, I do, and it's interesting and delicate as it could be, because I'll be working with the daughter around a persona that was created in response to the mother,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both, and the mother's there, and it's like, it's, you know, we do it, but
That
boy,
is
it
intense.
tricky.
Wow.
It is tricky.
Yeah.
I usually just bring in why the mother got it. I try to bring in the lineage. with
Great.
it, but it
Because
is,
where
it's
did the
very
mother
tricky.
learn it?
Yeah.
And yeah, what
Yeah.
personas were
Yeah.
in the, yeah.
So it'd be
that's
fun
great.
sometime to talk about it as far as family therapy. 'Cause
Yeah, that's really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right, because clearly this was important to the lineage in terms of their own survival.
That's right.
That people should work hard, that's just how it is.
That's
People
right.
shouldn't
That's
be gay or
That's
whatever,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Well, I want to add to something that you just said I think is really powerful. When you were able to actually see that Kathy was not her persona or personas, and so you could actually see her essence. And then I'm thinking about the power that we have with our partners. What we see, we magnify out.
Absolutely.
So just thinking how transformative that is.
Mhm.
Just wow, to actually have the person that you love and loves you see your essence more often.
Yes, it's so big, so
So
big, the
big.
essence, because what I think is we fall in love with each other's essence. And so, and then it goes away, because these personas come to the surface, probably within that space. So what was the best thing about the relationship has disappeared, and it's replaced by this other thing. God, and I'm that person to you were so in love with me, now you hate me. So I'm gonna go drink because that's better than being home. I mean, that's, there's a couple yesterday, I just don't wanna be home. Well, yeah, because it's too painful to be that person
Yeah.
instead of the one that somebody loves and appreciates and is in love with.
Right. The pain of knowing that the other person is seeing you
It's easy
so
that way.
ugly.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what they're talking about, and that's what they're accusing you of, and in the fights, that's what comes up.
Right.
And then it's just projection to projection, and so, and I think that's a real pitfall for therapists, is going back to that original diagram, persona to projection. I think a pitfall is those folks are walking around in this world, and the therapist enters that world and tries to intervene there,
Mm-hmm.
which forget it. But it's very enticing. The whole, okay, he really is an abuser, we have to get her away from him, we gotta make sure she's safe. I know there's a time and a place for that, but if you don't know, if you don't understand all of this, it's not gonna work. She's gonna go back to him, and he's gonna do it again, and he's gonna feel terrible, and right, the whole cycle continues. If this is the level you're working on, if you can't find your way back to the feelings and back to essence. Because people are defended, and they will fight for their defenses. Necessarily. I don't wanna have those feelings, I didn't sign up to have the feelings, and now you're telling me I'm wrong? I'm not wrong, you're wrong.
And then the circle continues.
And the circle continues, and the escalation continues, and the
Mhm.
relationship then becomes that. And so often, people, people are well-intentioned, they want things to work, but then they have the big fights from persona to persona, and we'll get to that, I hope, today, that, so then things are so escalated. What was the end of that thought? I don't think I know.
It was about the escalation continuing.
Thank you, and that's, and then the only way to keep it from keeping in that level of stress, because it's highly stressful, highly disruptive, highly emotionally dysregulating, to use substances, to do anything to get away. Like, let's sit here and watch Netflix or drink or smoke or anything, or I'm just gonna leave. And so then the relationship is this numbed out experience, and then people say, why aren't we in love? Because, well, I come home and this is what we do, mostly so that we don't escalate, because that's so painful, because it never helps. We have the big fight and it doesn't help, so we'll just keep the damper on things, and then we just feel numbed and think long-term relationships are just like this. You settle and it's boring and all this stuff.
Affairs at the
until I meet the person at work who is not boring, and now I feel awake, and so clearly I am with the wrong person. I'm awake with that person. I should be with that person. Yes, it's it's the triangle right there that we're looking for the hero, because we don't know how to get out of this. Because at that point it's this victim, villain.
Wouldn't you say that it could be just as, like, differently devastating, but equally kind of at least essence, from the point of view of essence in the world, devastating if the personas that are playing out in the relationship are the number one ones? Because I'm thinking about, like, my own personal, I will never be in a normal life thing.
Yes.
I think some of it is seeing those number ones, not just the number twos.
Right. The
'Cause
lockdown.
The kind of everyone's
Fine.
exactly.
We're
Everyone's
good.
fine.
We're a good family.
They're living a good life.
That's right. We're following the rules and doing it right. And, Yeah.
And so, like, on one level you can the fights aren't happening and other stuff, but the death is even maybe more.
Yes,
So not
and
less.
those number two personas are locked away, and they are going to cause trouble.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a both and with that.
Right.
Like, yes, we're living this sort of white knuckle life,
Yeah.
and turns out I have a secret gambling habit, or I
Right.
sneaked in and watched porn, or it's
Yeah.
gonna come out somewhere.
Okay, got it.
It just is. These personas, there's a reason they're there, and they're gonna get triggered, and they're gonna cause the havoc, and I'm so bad. We have another couple, porn habit, and they both agreed how bad he was. And instead of, it was this secret thing that he had done because he couldn't be who she wanted him to be. Some version of that. Anyway, so, yes, pausing. Going off into my reverie. So now we get to interlocks. Interlocks. This is brilliant. La la la. That's so interesting. So if I am really triggered into my workaholic because I don't want to be sad and scared, and I require people that don't do things, let's see, too much. Okay, so when would we introduce the bottom half of the circle? Well, probably you would have done all the other work. I mean, this here, we've, however long we're into this, it's taken us a while. It probably would take that long, like the next session or the other times when they're getting used to being personas and talking to each other.
Okay.
Send the persona interview home with them, see if they can interview each other's, other personas. And people really like this stuff. It's fun, it's interesting. So have them do it, have them get some kind of facility with this talking persona language. Because the unconscious is waiting. This part is, again, it's very disruptive to people. It's what you're telling me, my reality is not what I thought it was? Huh. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. So too much work. What else? People that are slackers, I'm part of that. Okay, because otherwise I can't stay in my workaholic. I can just stay irritable, but I won't have to feel sad and scared. So da-da-da. If I require that, wouldn't it be handy to have somebody around who would help me not have sadness and fear feelings?
Mhm.
Good idea to have a partner who, I'm gonna tell Kath that I've talked
She
about
must be
her.
used to this.
I don't know, she'd be alright. One of her main worries, is that she's lazy.
Mm.
Talk about an interlock. This is what it looks like. On a bad day. On a good day, I just like to do stuff. But on a bad day, I'm just like looking for something to do around the house to fix. So I'm up, I'm moving around, I'm like finding things things that are broken, right? So broken things, like that's another one, Mr. Fix It, but right. So I'm moving around. Well, she says, "Will you please just sit down? Because you're making me think I'm lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Will you please just sit?" I don't, come on, stop doing the thing, because, but she's got a persona, I don't know if she's ever really interviewed it, I'll have to ask her, that I think she just wants to sit around, maybe, I don't know. In her family, this is the worst thing, you're not supposed to be lazy, oh, don't get up. She has a story of, her mother told her she had to do housework, so she was sitting up in her room with the vacuum cleaner on while she's reading.
I think it's
That's
it's within
awesome.
possible. I did that sometime in my childhood too.
That's awesome.
That's so smart. So creative.
Sounds very familiar to me.
So I think that's a different persona too, the rebel persona, the other ones. But look.
Mm-hmm.
And what does a lazy person require?
Someone who's telling them what to do.
Controller, and probably somebody that makes them wrong, so somebody's doing more.
And too much to do, I would think.
Yeah.
So I have an immediate question. So you said that because you do a lot, it raises her, but does it actually make her become more lazy when you're doing a lot? Or does she just get afraid that she is?
Yeah, she gets afraid that that's really who she is. So is she actually lazy? Maybe, I don't know, because that's not my filter at all.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what are you talking about? Good, but
But when she's sitting around not doing her stuff, does that make you more? Yeah, because that's the slackers. Does that make you more workaholic?
yeah, probably.
Kathy's petting
Probably.
the dogs and watching TV or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Probably there's a part of me sometimes, that someone's got to do it, right? What's the motto of the workaholic? It's probably someone's got to do it.
If I don't do it, blankety blank blank blank.
Yeah,
blank.
Right.
yeah.
I have both.
Yeah, well, exactly, and probably we all probably have all the personas, I think.
Yeah.
So then, is the shadow of the workaholic the lazy?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right, so if we were gonna have a really good fight, have we had this fight? Yeah, it was a long time ago. When are you gonna get a job? I said, yes, we had that fight. Because then there's different personas of a fear about money persona. What is that? Frozen, probably. But it jumps into a judgmental persona. When are you gonna get a job? Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So the parts that we deny within our own selves are what we're attracted to.
Absolutely.
Because this is the unconscious at work.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Right. Do I have a lazy persona? I don't know. Haven't really thought about it. Probably. But
Well,
let her
it's-
express it,
it's
then I don't
like-
have to.
Right.
Slothful. It's been a great thing about this whole experience of being sick is I just lay there. I'm watching home and garden shows. So probably I do have a pretty big lazy persona.
That's so interesting.
That's
though, is as far as
fascinating.
feedback from the world.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's a different model, but
Yes.
Well, and then what's happened to Kath? Has she become more workaholic? Have you guys shifted?
well, not necessarily, because it depends on how much you guys are facing these things. if she would
I mean, I'm
actually
just
automatically
curious
go
what
there.
what your experience,
Yeah,
is she
I
more
think
up and
so.
about?
I think so.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
you-
and you could put it in
yeah.
terms of overfunction or underfunctioner,
Right.
and then that whole energy and is it switching back and forth, and yeah.
Yeah, because you've told us, you've made comments along the way where Kathy wanted you to not work as much and not, is it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Well, and then I'm thinking about bringing the Gestalt into this in my mind, because I'm thinking about how in relationships with Gestalt we're actually attracted to our underdeveloped aspects are attracted to the overdeveloped.
No question.
Yeah.
No question. So absolutely, and so yes. So going back to the whole couples work.
So we
yeah, go
find
ahead.
this out, and we have a couple,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, they see this,
Yes.
then what?
Well, some of this is just pure intellectualization where, can you see that you require the very thing you're complaining about? I mean, that's like a whole session.
No kidding.
What? Yeah, the thing you keep talking about to your friends or your family, you actually require. I mean, I can still remember when I first heard that and kind of the panic / excitement of, oh, I can see that because of how this, I mean, like it really helps me to be able to see things. I could see that. So then if you can start to see it, well, what do? I mean, at some point, you just do the same damn thing anyway, just have feelings. But
Right.
you interview the personas, you've talked to them, you get to know them better, and you help people have feelings. It's like the asterisk. And yeah, that's always the bottom, and then you help people have feelings.
So they're supposed to go towards what they don't want to go towards.
Exactly. That's what this
They're supposed to
whole thing
face
is.
into it,
It's
and that's
about
where the
facing it.
SUW comes in.
Exactly.
Okay.
And FACT.
And FACT.
What is it I haven't faced, fully faced? So you can start bringing in these other tools. And I actually created a FACs, I don't know, somewhere in the FACT, personas kind of pop up, and it's a really great time to just interview them, so you could just be watching for that.
So, but I mean, if people haven't felt their anger, say their whole life,
Yeah.
so they just attracted a partner that is like rageful, right?
Yes, yes.
So sometimes I think for people it's like this ocean of anger
Yes.
that they are so afraid to go towards because it looks like it's gonna take over their life.
Yes.
So I think sometimes with people like that, there is the layer of feeling, because sometimes it is hard to go into the depths and really dissolve all of that within one, right?
Yes.
You can't necessarily.
You can't. So there's layers and layers and layers
Yes.
to feeling and recognizing this is a practice.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's
Yes
what,
and yes.
that's what was
Yes.
cool. It was cool on Wednesday that came out. The question, one of the people on Wednesday night was asking, I feel sad all the time, when's it gonna go away? I thought that was amazing, cause you were like, it's gonna go, it's gonna
Oh,
take
yes.
how long it takes.
Yes,
It's not just once,
yes.
you know,
Right.
cause that's what you're
Yeah,
talking
true.
about.
Yeah, and that the more we do it, the quicker we're able to access and move through instead of getting so stuck for
Yes.
so long.
Yes, but to see for, each of us, right, how long did it take us and to see that group and how, she was talking and how long has she been doing this work, like, this is not easy stuff because you're going down into the unconscious, back out, I don't wanna have this feeling, oh God, now there's this one, I think I really am crazy. It's big for people, and you're in there in a very deep way, it's like really changing things, and it's disruptive and it's scary.
Yeah.
Well, and then Julie, I'm also thinking like sometimes in partnership, one partner really wants to dive in and do the work and really deepen and like
Mhm.
uncover, and then the other person just wants to blame
Well,
and
let's
say
do
you're
that.
you're the one, right? So
Do
there's someone,
personas of
yeah,
that.
there's someone waking up and being conscious, and then there's the other person that's like, yeah, good job, you're doing the work because it has nothing to do with me.
But look,
Yeah, there you go.
what do they require?
Mhm. Someone who is ignorant.
Ignorant
Interesting.
and
That's cool.
unconscious.
That's great.
But that is such a typical thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't wanna come in, I have to drag him in, but okay, I'm here, alright, I'm here, I don't wanna be here, but I'm here. Right, so typical. What do they require? I'm here, I don't really wanna be here.
An excuse. An excuse, maybe? Someone to blame?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna call that the ignoramus, I like that.
Well, and yeah, I'm thinking about our community. There's very few couples that come to ILC. It's
Well, right.
one of the partners.
Yeah.
Which made me think about that.
It's such a typical, thing. But,
Right.
but to start to see it this way, not just, well, if I could just get them to change,
Mm-hmm.
if he finally would go to therapy, this would all be better. That's the solution.
Mhm.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
The solution is to look at my persona, because otherwise I'm gonna keep requiring him to do the very thing
Mhm.
I'm complaining about.
I mean, what I started to say, like, a lot at the very beginning with my partnered couples, or, thank goodness I've had more than one, and, it's just this work is not about blaming the other person ever.
Ever.
And I feel like I have to say it over and over,
Oh,
cause
yeah.
they do walk in saying, basically, this is what's wrong, and it's
Yeah.
to some degree, if you just changed, I'd
Oh,
be
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely. And it's logical.
Oh, yeah.
Because I could see you, and I
Yeah.
could see how you're messing up. So
Mhm.
it's logical, so you're really interrupting that too. It doesn't make sense to people.
Okay, so then I have a question. So suppose we do this work,
Mhm.
and I do get why then the next thing beyond the intellectual understanding is SEW or something, because the idea is these things show up in their lives and they start to have enough consciousness to say, oh, let's do SEW instead of fight with each other. So suppose one person is really doing, is kind of doing it, is starting to really work with this persona in a real way, and the other one isn't. Would the conclusion be then still to go back to, then you still want this one to show up?
Still want
So
the other
New
person.
Age Guru has started to face this,
Mhm.
and they're actually, they are
Having
doing
the
SEW,
feelings, which probably have
and
to do
they're
with fear.
having feelings, and
Mhm.
they're, but this guy or lady isn't.
Yes.
And, so one person's taking the persona stuff on, the other one is not.
Yes.
So would it then be logical to say, hero, you actually still want this? You still need the victim.
The result is that
Yeah.
you're still complaining about this, so you
Right.
continue to
So you still
require
need it.
this.
Okay,
So this is still your
So there's
same,
no
or it could
way
be a
out.
different persona.
right.
So how will we know that the persona is dissolving, or at least is not
Right.
in charge anymore? Is this person's gonna be different? Ha!
The other person is gonna be different. I love it. Ah, that's great.
Right.
The result will be different.
Right. Well, because the blinders have been removed from the New Age Guru.
They finally are having their feelings. They're saying that when they're scared, instead of controlling everybody all the time with their New Age statistics. I'll speak for myself. Research shows, right? I'm just scared. Oh, I feel out of control. I don't require this anymore. So then it sort of is weird for this person, but yes, I mean, theoretically, you don't need this person to do any of the work. That if you're shifting it, they're gonna just naturally shift, because you don't require them to show up that way anymore.
That's so fascinating.
That is
Yeah. Oh.
really fast.
Uh-huh.
I have to be sure I wrote that down right so I don't forget. This is hard to hold in
What?
my mind.
I know, I'm like, I mean, I know,
Yeah, I
but then when
understand.
you say that, that's like, whoa.
Right.
Oh.
So it's almost like, yeah, you can do couples work, but individual work.
My couples work is individual
Is
work with two
individual
people
work.
at the same time,
Exactly.
so that they can witness each other's individual work.
Right.
Right, literally,
And
that's.
this is why.
That's right.
Right.
This is exactly
Because
why.
as they transcend their own consciousness,
Yeah.
it transforms the
Wow,
relationship.
This is so cool.
I know.
I mean,
know.
if someone's willing to, and I'm just sitting looking at my own life, and it's so hard to really take it on, because there's that point when you're like, I just want this to end.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This nightmare to end.
Yeah.
Too bad I'm the one creating the damn nightmare. Because, and this is like the point of, you're blaming me? You're telling me it's all my fault? I'm always the one that has to do everything anyway. Huh. This shift into, oh, this gives me the power. I mean, not the power of the relationship, but
Right.
like now I got the power of, I can shift my whole life.
Right.
If I can see that this is what I'm doing and how I'm requiring my life to show up.
Right, and you deepen your connection to your own system, your own body, which actually amplifies the attraction.
And
That's just because
Oh.
you're more embodied. You're not over there
I
in
see.
your partner.
The real attraction.
The real
The
attraction.
real attraction, because you're showing up as
yes.
essence. You can start to see your partner's essence, not as just the ignoramus. Like suddenly it's like, oh, you are kind of hot. You're not just in this victim status that I've required you to be in.
Right, and you're also becoming your own self-companion instead of self-abandoning for this other person out here that needs to do all these things.
Yeah, right.
Right?
If they just would, and it's TikTok, when are they going to?
But, so within this.
Would you check the camera and see if it's still?
Yes.
That's what I get to see. It's still filming.
It's still filming.
Okay. Can you see how much?
It says volume mute. What is that?
Is that? Well, I hope not.
It doesn't necessarily mean
Does that mean that
It should be still
is?
recording volume,
that
but.
when record, it just could mean it doesn't.
It's recording.
All right.
It just has this interesting volume.